Well, I tell you what, it was quite an honour to be asked to come and talk in this fantastic new building. Thank you for that. I'm still a bit nervous, but I'll get going, I'll be all right. I want to join this man with a pint afterwards. Right, let's have a look. Yes, in the next 15 minutes, if I talk fast, I'll be quick, all right? I'd like to take you all on a journey and tell you a story. It's a journey that Mavis and I have been travelling now for quite a few years, and the story is our involvement with asbestos, which most of you now will be familiar with the contamination and the ugly consequences of that contamination. It's as I say, a joint journey that we've shared. You're all familiar with sheets of asbestos, no doubt, and the contamination and the rotten consequences. So, I'm ready. If you're ready to join me on that journey, I ask you to take a seat on my magic bus, close your eyes, and I'll whip you back to where, for me, this journey began. Okay, you can open your eyes because we've arrived at 1953, where, for me, this journey began. It was in the historic dockyard at Chatham. It started, I'm 15 years old then. I've just left school. I've just passed the entrance exam, and I've just gained a 5-year apprenticeship in the Royal Naval Shipyard at Chatham. Most of that first 2 years was carried out in these old antique mast house buildings. We had 2 days a week at college where we had to do the principles of shipbuilding and naval architecture, and we had 3 days a week where they let loose on machinery and learning to use hand tools and some practical projects. At the end of that 2 years, we were transferred out of the training centre and we were put into gangs of shipwrights and assigned to a mentor. And that really was where my story starts. You might ask the question at this point, so what was life like for a young boy in a shipyard at that time? This is pre-health and safety, dare I say it. Pretty gruesome when I look back. A typical day for me at that time would be clocking on at 7 in the morning and taking a walk down the dockside, and we would have to climb over any amount of bits and pieces that have been ripped out of the ship and dumped to shore ready for disposal. There'd be small pipe work, big pipe work, trunking, ventilation, fridges, engine parts, boilers, everything, all covered in copious amounts of asbestos. We'd walk up the brow, step on board the ship, and we'd be met with literally miles of hissing, spitting, leaking compressed air lines, and they'd be churning that asbestos dust-laden cloud into a haze that we'd work in all day long. Yeah, we would reach the area that we were going to be working in that day and hang up your jacket and put on our overalls. But those overalls would have been hanging in that dust cloud all night, and we'd just start work. It's not a problem. And come home time, we'd swap back, put your jacket back on. But now that jacket's been hanging in that asbestos dust cloud all day, and you're going to take that dust home and share it with your family. Working in those asbestos areas, something like that would have been very helpful. But unfortunately, all we ever got was a pair of overalls. At lunch break, the idea was you'd find a clean area on the deck, kick aside any big rubbish and simply squat. You'd open up your lunchbox and pour out your cup of tea and get your newspaper out. 20 minutes later, when that hooter went to go back to work, that asbestos dust cloud would have been settled all over your cheese and tomato sarnie and on top of your cup of tea. So now you would have eaten it and drunk it. That cloud was everywhere. We're completing that first year on board the ships. We moved on into my fourth year. We could have been in a new gang, with the new shipwrights and a new mentor. But the only thing that wasn't new was the dust and the mess. That cloud was ever present everywhere. But as I moved off into my last and final year, a major change was going to smack me between the eyes, and I had no idea at the time what it was. But it came in the unexpected shape of a girl that I'd just recently met. That major change was the quiet, shy and reserved Mavis. And those who know her know she ain't quiet, shy or reserved anymore. I'm not embarrassed to say that it was love at first sight. We were inseparable and we met every single day after work. Sometimes at lunchtimes I'd get onto my little old motorbike, I'd speed off to try and find her so that we could snatch 10 minutes together. But when we kissed goodbye and me to get back to work, she'd have been breathing that dust in off my clothes. And the damage was then done and the clock was ticking. With my 5 years apprenticeship now nearing its end, I was about to enter another new phase that was going to smack me between the eyes. Not only were the government at the time quite happy to poison me on a daily basis with their asbestos, they now wanted me body and soul for 2 years national service. So exactly a week after signing off my indentures, they swapped my overalls for a hairy uniform and a pair of boots. I can't say, to be honest, that 2 years in the services was the happiest 2 years of my life, because, to be honest, they weren't. You might say, well, look, you look happy enough there, what are you moaning about? Well, I was happy there because that was my last day in Germany. I was on the mob and I was going home. At last, yep, I'm going back home. Yes, back to that filthy shipyard. And yes, of course, back to Mavis. But at 2 years service behind me now, life can move on. They can have their boots back. And a few weeks after the mob, all those plans that we'd been building over the previous months came together and we got married. We lived a normal life, settled down and raised a family. But now, Mavis, as my wife, was washing my dusty clothes, shaking them. I don't suppose anybody here has used one of these old-fashioned washing machines, have they? No, didn't think so. Well, everything had to be shaken before they went in, so she was breathing in more dust off my clothes. And as I say, tick-tock, tick-tock, that clock is still ticking. Sometimes I'll get sent a little video, and I thought this 2-minute clip is my favourite. I don't know whether some of you may have already seen it, but it's my favourite, I love it.
Camera set.
Just enjoy yourself. Be yourself, yeah?
Yeah.
Look at me, not at the camera.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, Jenny, would you consider it important to wear a dust mask in the working environment?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me about health and safety. No, they're a good idea. They can be a bit fiddly to put on sometimes, and if you want to talk to someone, you might forget to put it back on afterwards. No, they're helpful, I'm sure.
Do you wear a mask in dusty working environments?
Yeah, a lot of the time. Well, sometimes. I actually find them quite uncomfortable.
And have you noticed any impact on your health over the last 5 years?
No, not really. I mean, some of the other lads, they cough a lot, but, you know, they're probably on like 40 fags a day or something.
Outside of work, would you say you lead a healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, I guess so. I eat pretty healthily and I like having my friends around the house, but
Where do you see yourself in 10 to 15 years' time?
that ring any bells? You're all too young yet, aren't you? So after my 2 years in the service was up, and I realised that going to work every day did not have to be in those filthy shipyard conditions. And I decided it wasn't the place for me and I was going to find something else. 18 months passed while I searched. I took on many roles. We raised a family, as I say, and lived a normal life. And eventually I settled on a completely new path. I retrained in electronics. And to me, that was a white coat and a clean room job. And all thoughts of asbestos were now long gone. But time catches up, and that year, 2000, was approaching. And it was a point where some of us looked forward to in life, retirement. We were ready to live the dream. We had a small motorhome and we were travelling around, touring about, up and down Britain, having a great time. 8 happy years passed. Before that dream was to turn into a nightmare. Christmas of 2008, we were fed up with the cold, miserable winters and we decided we needed to look for some sun. So I packed all our bits and bobs and I drove that down to Spain. We were now looking for some nice sunshine. A couple of months down there touring, we had a great time, didn't we? But all things come to an end and we had to come home. But as soon as we got home, Mavis was having problems, all sorts of strange problems. She had several visits to the GP and a couple to different specialists, but nothing was confirmed. But I remember it well. It was the 4th of June, 2009. That's how well I remember it. It was our wedding anniversary. We were going up the road to vote. And Mavis suddenly collapsed. She said, "I can't do this. Take me home. I can't breathe." So a very, very slow walk home and a quick phone call to our GP. And he was good. We got in to see him straight away. And he checked her over and was checking his PC. And he said, "Right, go home. I'll give you a phone call shortly." Well, we got the phone call. He said, "There's a bed waiting for you at Kenton Canterbury Hospital. Now, get yourself in." So, off we went. It was a couple of weeks that had kept her in there, and I was visiting every single day. And they were carrying out all these different tests, scans, CT scans, or you name it, growing cultures in dishes. And eventually, during that one of my visits, the doctor came up with the great news. He said, "You've got mesothelioma." We couldn't say the word. What is it? What is it? He said, "It's an asbestos-related terminal cancer. There's no cure and no treatment that I can give you. Go home and put your affairs in order," he said. And his prognosis for that, you've got 3 months. Can you imagine? I'm sitting on the end of her bed, trying to make sense of what this doctor has just said. Terminal? Cancer? 3 months? But the word that stuck in my brain at that time was asbestos. Asbestos. Yeah. This was my old apprentice days coming back to haunt me. This is my fault. I gave this to Mavis, and this is my thanks to her for half a century now, nearly, of love and devotion. A bloody death sentence. How am I ever going to deal with this? I don't know. And to be honest, that was 10 years ago, and that guilt still sits on my shoulders today. But a few weeks later, there was a little glimmer of hope offered on the horizon. We had a letter offering a course of chemotherapy if we were interested. Maybe I said, well, I'm going to die anyway, so yeah, let's go for it. That was the start of 4 long, sick years of various types of chemotherapy. And as her carer, I was learning to cook. Not a very good one, I must add. But you can't live on beans on toast forever, so I had to make an effort and learn fast. I found all sorts of things in the cupboards at home. I found brooms, dusters, tins of polish, you name it. I also found this big white tin box in the kitchen. And Mavis said if you put dirty washing in there, it comes out clean. Technology today's amazing. I had so much to learn. But after 4 years of chemotherapy, they called us in, and the oncologist said, I've got to stop all treatment for you because your body is now so toxic, it's so full of poison that it's killing you. As if the cancer wasn't anyway. So she'd been reduced now to relying on a walking frame. Standing up, walking about, getting anywhere was no longer an option. Because if I didn't keep an eye on her, she'd be flat on her face or flat on her back somewhere. But she was in a real bad place, and they were now measuring her future in weeks. But during one of her many presentations, that she was advised that there was a small trial beginning at the Royal Marsden, and it was immunotherapy, and it might just do her mesothelioma some good. So we asked our doctor for a referral, and we got one. Good old Professor Bono, lovely man. They responded. We had to wait for the response, and there was 3 places available on this trial, and Mavis was fortunate enough to get one of them. But there we are. We leap forward now to May 2016. With the treatment that we had every 14 days for 2 years, 52 drug infusions, that trial was completed. And we had to sit back now and wait for the results. That result was complete response. And in layman's terms, that means remission. And this was the best news that we'd had in 7 years. And during all this time, did she sit at home moaning with a woe is me attitude? No, that's not Mavis. Despite her illness, she runs a social media network called the Meso Warriors. It is recognised globally, and the hard work that she puts in is just beyond me. I don't know how she does it, but she has on average of 20,000 plus hits a week, which she deals with. It's amazing. She was awarded a British Citizens Award for all this hard work. And at the moment, I can't rein her in, I can't slow her down or stop her. She has her own registered charity now, the Mavis Nye Foundation, which was registered in April 17. And it's coming along, it's doing quite well. Well, there we are, look, what a journey. 62 years together, still smiling. Long gone that quiet, shy and reserved girl that I met all those years ago. And long gone my hair as well, but that's life. But that's not quite the end of this journey. We were still smiling up to April of last year, but then things began to change. We were having regular checkups every 8 weeks at the Marsden, and we travelled in for our scan results, and we left that meeting with devastating results. Some new tumours had emerged and the mesothelioma was back again. After consultation with the Royal Marsden, they agreed that we could go back on the trial again. But at this point now today, with those latest results, Mavis has asked me to shut up, stop waffling, because she wants to explain to you those latest results, because she knows and understands it better than I do. So thank you for listening to my part of the journey. I hope it's been of some interest to you. It's time to do as I'm told and to invite Mavis up to take my place. And I always do as I'm told, don't I? Thank you.